Hello, everyone, and welcome to twitch.tv/ the Onyx Path, where today we are having a Trinity Continuum Aegis writers discussion. This is the second writers discussion we've had. We had one on launch day for the backer kit, and we had so much fun that we decided to do a second one. Plus, we had a couple authors that weren't able to make that one that are able to make this one. And who knows, there's still a couple weeks left in the campaign, so maybe we'll pull off one more. One never knows. I do want to draw your attention to the link to the backer kit, which is currently crowdfunding, and I need to update the language for that on Nightbot because it says soon. It's very soon, as in right now. So we have reached full funding and are burning through stretch goals. So please, if you've not yet done so, head over there, check it out. Make sure to contribute to the cause, secure yourself access to the manuscript as it rolls out, get some of those sweet add-ons and perks and things along those lines, and help us make this as big as we can. If you have backed it, first of all, thank you very much. Secondly, please be sure to tell all your friends, family, loved ones, people you don't like, random strangers on the street, anyone who you can think of and access, tell them to go do so as well. My name is Travis Legg. My pronouns are he and they. When I'm not running games here, I am writing them. And I will be the sort of master of ceremonies, I suppose. If you would like to ask any questions of us, please type question in the chat in all caps at the beginning of your statement. Or use your chips of Onyx, which is our channel currency, to highlight your message to make sure we see it, or do both. That makes it extra likely that we're going to see it. So now that I have, I think, talked everyone's ear off long enough, let's do our intros. We're going to go clockwise for me from what I see on the screen. So Steve, if you would, please tell us who you are, what you do, your pronouns, and anything you would like to share with the class.
Hey, I'm Steve Tasker. Pronouns are he, him. I've written on Aegis and a couple of other Trinity games. I was on the core. I love running games. I run a lot of LARPs and a lot of other larger role-playing games, and I love talking about Trinity. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Travis.
Thanks for being here. Greatly appreciate it. And forgive me because I'm juggling a couple things at the moment. Did we get your pronouns?
Yeah, he, him.
Excellent.
Sorry,
Thank you so much.
Or he, they, actually. That's fine.
Also awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. And next up, that brings us over to Spider. Please give us all of your pertinent details.
So my name is Spider B. Perry, and I have been writing for Onyx Path for about half a dozen years now, which seems really weird to say. Started with Vampire and some Chronicles of Darkness, Changeling as well. Mainly, I am a Scion writer. I joked earlier that it's easier to name the books on Scion 2E that I didn't write on than the ones that I did. I've been very lucky to be involved in so much of that project. And I was really, really delighted when Lauren asked me to work on Aegis. When I am not feverishly pounding out words on various role-playing game projects, I am running Nerdy Kepi, which is a queer clothing company, and chasing 4 dogs around. And my pronouns are he and they, which I think makes this like a trifecta.
So we are, yes, a trifecta nice. Of he theys. I think it's called a school, perhaps. I don't know.
Right, a school. Yeah, exactly. So a podcast of he theys. I don't know.
It's fair. It's fair.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yeah, let's dive into it. I guess first off, let's talk about which sections did you work on. Since I had Steve go first with introductions, I'll have you go first, Spider. So with Aegis, which sections of the book did you work on, and what was your overall, I guess, mission statement or goal with that section?
Sure. So the thing that I wrote. A lot of times, I should back up and say, a lot of times we're kind of scattered across books. So we will write a little bit of chapter 1, a little bit of chapter 3, and we're working, with other folks on whatever that section may be. Lauren gave me a wonderful gift she allowed me to just write the story guiding section all by myself, and just, from kind of soup to nuts. And I did most of chapter 7. I did not do the antagonists section, but everything, before that. And what I was really excited about with this is that this is the first time I've been able to sit down and do a story guiding section in the core, the flagship book of a new game. And so that gave me the ability to sit down and really think about what we wanted to do with the game itself as a whole, and the way that we wanted to approach this kind of cooperative storytelling venture that role-playing games are. And for me personally, I think that one of the things that best predicts the success or failure of any given, I don't care what system it is, I don't care what platform, like whatever you're using, what game, what setting, I don't think that actually matters in terms of what the success of a chronicle or whatever you want to call it, a group of games, right, is, as making sure that everybody is playing the same game. And what I mean by that, right, is I kind of come from my main form of gaming is online text-based Chronicles of Darkness. I've been doing that for like probably 15-20 years. And some of those games can have upwards of like 200 players. And in a setting like that, it can be really hard to all be playing the same game, right? So you have somebody who's a small group of Guardians of the Veil who are all playing a noir mystery game, and then the people who are playing Silver Ladder or whatever they want to play Model UN, and that's not, you're not playing the same game at that point. And so kind of my observation has been that it's really important for everybody from session 0 onward, whether you're playing with 5 people or 200 people, understands the game that you're playing, not just we're playing Trinity Aegis, but what's important to you about this, and how are you framing that, and what genre are you even in, right? Which is not something that before the last few years, I think we've really talked about, how you can be playing one game and be playing 5 different genres, right? So when you have those kind of essential conflicts, where one person wants to be playing a romance, and one person wants to be playing a war story, and somebody else wants to be playing a fantasy story, that's where people are not having fun, because they're not at the same table, essentially. So that was kind of my thing, is let's arm all the players, including story guides, who are just a player who has taken responsibility
Right.
to run the game, right? You are another player. Let's arm all the players with all of the tools that they need to, if they're not telling the same story, at least be able to meet each other's stories. If we're not all playing the same game, how do we blend a fantasy and a war? You know what I mean? Like, how do we do that so that, Bob gets to play the fantasy story, and Alice gets to play out her war story? Do you know what I mean? And so that was kind of what I wanted to do, is like, let's, and here are all the different ways you can tell a story, right? And the different ways you can story guide, because I don't think we talk about that as much. So yeah.
Awesome. That's really cool. And one of the things, just to kind of piggyback off what you said and expand on it a little bit, particular to the Trinity Continuum, is you have kind of this constant through line of science fiction, right? And that's what defines Trinity
Right.
ultimately, is that it is, when you scrape everything else away, it's a science fiction setting. And being able to explore, I think it's really cool to hear that there's attention being paid to the sort of levels of nuance that can exist within that very, very broad brush,
Right.
because
Yes.
even like, in Aberrant, for example, there's 20 subgenres of superhero that you can be playing,
Right.
and if everybody shows up wanting to play a different one, you have problems, or can have problems.
Right.
So it's very cool to hear that you've tackled that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What?
it's very fun to be able to put these things in the beginning, right? And I think helpful to me, and I hope that people will find the things that Lauren and I thought would be useful, are useful to people, and talking about story structure and things like that, because hopefully that'll give people a nice firm footing from which to be able to enjoy everything else that everybody else did. Like I'm there to like build the stage, and everyone else who wrote on this book is there to really populate it.
That's awesome. I dig it. Cool. And how about you, Steve? What did you work on Aegis?
I got I started off just working on gifts, and I ended up doing quite a few of the gifts, which were really fun to do. You laid an excellent stage for us, Spider.
Thank you.
Something about that being a sci-fi setting, trying to dig into what Greek heroes look like in that setting, and the definitions, and how we portray Achilles or someone else, or wow, I can't think of any other Greek heroes right now. But Patroclus, or any of
They're
the
all
other.
Achilles in a very like being John Malkovich sort of way.
Yeah.
Everyone's Achilles. But how we talk about those stories, and those larger than life powers that usually just get explained away as being magical or something like that. Getting to talk about those characters, and the way they express their magic, or not actually magic, but might, in this setting is really cool. I also got to write about how Olympians become Olympians, which is really cool. Ended up getting to do some microfiction in there that really sort of digs into the different ways that people awaken to this new power, which was a lot of fun to do.
That's awesome. And can you, without, I guess, giving away the story, because I don't think that chapter has been released yet, but can you
Don't
talk a
think
little
so.
bit, I guess, in broad terms of how, because each sort of point on the Trinity Continuum has the gifts, the powers that are available sort of function a little differently. You have some slightly different conceits that you're meeting with. So can you maybe talk a little bit about just from a bird's eye view, what some of the gifts look like, or what some of the design ethos was in the gifts that we'll be seeing when that chapter drops?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think what is already known is that there are uh, three different groups. I think that's been announced: the Olympians, the Champions, the Oracles. I also worked on Adventure, which had a very similar sort of split in the powers. Um, thinking about how each of those expresses their might. So when I went into it, I very much tried to build every power. I think everyone who was listening probably knows, a lot of people, just like Spider said, a lot of people work on every chapter. So I've gotten the chance to work on gifts for a lot of books, or a couple of books now. And so I always try to think about building all of the powers for one of these groups around like two or three strong concepts, and trying to dig into that as much as I can. So like on Adventure's out now, so I can talk about that one
Sure.
pretty much freely. With the Mesmerists, I really wanted to dig into like the sort of Sherlock Holmesian Beritsu stuff. So that was one of my core concepts. So like in this one, when I was writing up Oracle powers, I tried very much to go into, all right, prediction, but let's take that into very, small finite paths of what are we predicting this time, or prediction in the moment, or prediction long way out, and does that all the different permutations of that one sort of concept that might just be like one power in another game, but because we're focusing on the oracles here, really just drawing that out into as many permutations as I can out of that one concept. And the same thing with Olympians, right? When I was doing, they, I don't think it's a spoiler or anything to say that they get elemental control. And so really, what are all the things, what are the small sort of permutations that we can do with that elemental control? So yeah, that's kind of just my approach to how I write powers and Trinity as a whole. But
That's awesome though, and that I think speaks to as well one of the things that's the most interesting to me about the Trinity Continuum is how you have in each line that introduces a new character type. There are not necessarily direct analogs between the lines so much as they kind of rhyme with one another, right? Like a squire in Ether is not exactly a talent. They're talent adjacent, one might say, And so navigating those, because to me, I know as a player, those little idiosyncrasies and little the mild separations between them, or in some cases the gross separations between them, are very interesting and I think very compelling and a lot of fun to play with as a creator. And then I guess just real quick to touch on, I wrote I think everything I wrote on this book was in the colleges section. And I know there was one or two other authors on colleges, but I wrote, I think most of the four of the big six, and then two or three of the minor colleges.
Colleges are fun. I really think that they're going to be something that people are going to have a really good time like messing around with. So I'm excited to see what people make of them and what they do with them.
I would very much love to hear people's feedback about it. Funny story, a little bit of peeling back the veneer and letting folks see how the sauce is made. I didn't know that the Nauticoi, if I didn't murder that pronunciation, were called the Nauticoi until I opened the backer documents like 3 or 4 days ago because in the initial draft they weren't. And I dig the name a lot, but like so seeing how stuff like that shifts throughout the process is also very cool because absolutely 100 times I would assume it's Lauren, so hats off to Lauren for coming up with a much better name than what we had. But
going in and seeing how the editor has made my writing better, or expanded on concepts that I already had, and they're like one of the best parts of working on, at one point I will open up the finished Aegis and I will open up my first draft. So, and it's clearly gone through like 4 or 5 revisions just to see like how it evolved over time is really fun. It's a real kick to do.
It's very interesting. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to like some of those like I had that experience with Adventure. I think it's really the first big book that I've had that with. Well, I guess some of the like mission statements and stuff like that too. But yeah, it's really wild sometimes to see like what little shifts have been made and I would say 99 times out of 100 very clearly for the better. Very clearly strengthening. Everybody sort of adding their own spice along the way to strengthen it and make a better final product. So very very cool. I just do want to remind everybody that's watching, if you have any questions for us, go ahead and type question in all caps at the beginning in the chat. We will try to make sure we get to all of them. But while we're waiting for those to go down, so Spider, you talked a little bit about kind of unifying your table, right? Making sure that everybody is there to play the same game, or at least to play compatible games. Can you, without giving away the store, can you give us a little bit of insight into maybe some of the techniques or some of the sort of broad brush ideas that you use to accomplish that kind of merging?
Sure. So we talked a little bit about genre, and I think that that's one of the first things that you as a generic you as players and as story guide need to talk about when you first sit down to decide that you're going to be playing any game, but especially a game like Aegis, where there is a lot of room inside of it for a lot of different kinds of stories. Like it's very much the slapping the top of a car, meme. You can fit this baby can fit so many different genres in her. And so I think that's one of the first things that you really need to talk about. But game expectations as a whole, right? And I think that if folks have been watching some of the actual plays that go on the Onyx Path Twitch, that is oftentimes a big part of our session zeros, which we put up here. I know that when Hiromi was running I may still be running a Scion thing. I had to step out of it for scheduling reasons. But one of the things we really talked about up front was, um, things like not even things like using cell phones at the table is a thing that I think you need to talk about, because some people get really bothered by it, and other people like me who have ADHD, like I use my cell phone to moderate that so I don't lose my mind will wander if I can't like sit there and like just play a little swipey game sometimes when I'm trying to think, right? So, but if somebody doesn't know that that's what I'm doing, it can look really disrespectful. So stuff like that goes in game expectations, but also like what genre are we playing? You know, what are some of the things that we really want to engage theme wise or don't want to engage? And then that kind of leads into um things like common safety tools. I know most folks who play Onyx Path games will probably be familiar with the concept of lines and veils, because you use them. We talk about them a lot in safety sections. Things that you don't want to see at all, like don't want to deal with. Like I always have like centipedes is just like, we're not going to have any centipedes at all. I'm terribly phobic of them. And so a line is something that you don't want to have at all in the game, and then a veil is something that maybe could happen off screen or obliquely. A good example for a line versus a veil is that sexual assault might fall under a line. We're not going to touch that at all, but consensual sexual contact between characters might be a veil, because that's not, you're you know usually not going to be acting that out at the table, right? So those kinds of things are really important. And talking about them is not really any big surprise, because I put safety tools in everything, and Onyx Path is very good about making sure that those things are in books. And then we talk about collaborating a lot and different ways to collaborate, that you can choose to do or not to do as you like, right? Nothing that I put in this chapter, and that Lauren and I kind of talked out, because of course Lauren is a wonderful developer and really helped me put shape to the things that we wanted to put in there. None of these are mandated, but I think that we definitely put them there with the intention of, again, arming folks with a wide variety of tools that they can use. So, yeah, I don't know. I could probably talk about this chapter and everything that goes in it for like 2 hours by itself. So,
I mean, that's
yeah.
fair. That's fair. And I like that you brought up kind of the inclusion of safety tools and the inclusion of the importance of a session zero, not just because I think sometimes one of the dangers you can run into when you're talking strictly about safety tools is sounding a little bit like it can sometimes come off a little bit like it's being a little preachy, right? But when you roll that into the larger picture of of that being one important but one aspect of that building your world together at the table, I think that makes it a little that much harder for critics to criticize. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's a step in the process, as opposed to like, here's this thing we have to grind everything to a halt to make sure everybody feels safe and comfortable, which
So
also not a problem, but
right, and I don't apologize for that at all. But at the same time, I think because to some people these feel abrupt and new, um they I hear people having reactions to them that actually aren't too dissimilar to the reactions that a lot of drivers had when seatbelts were introduced, right?
Right.
They looked at seatbelts as an imprecation of them as drivers. Well, I'm a safe driver, right? So I don't need seatbelts. And of course that's when we look at it from 70 years in the future and we see how many fewer people have died in car crashes, we can see very clearly that it doesn't matter how safe of a driver you are, right? Things happen, shit happens, right?
Right. Exactly.
So I think it's a very similar mindset. And uh I think uh that the metaphor that I used in the book really holds true. At least a tiny little thing that's directly from the book is that, like, a rock climber, right, who has the proper safety equipment can attempt a much more difficult rock face than if they didn't have safety equipment at all. So the safety tools and the things that we put in there are not there to say that you can't do this without them. Certainly you could, but you can do much more and you can be much riskier, uh, and do it in a way more fun way if you have these tools. And so I think as the community as a whole, like, it started out very resistant, right, to some of these things, and we're seeing this kind of shift of like, oh, so that's why race car drivers have much more complicated safety belts, right? Like
Right.
they have the whole X style that fastens in the middle of their chest. Oh, of course, and that's why we now have like a 3-point harness in our cars, because we know that it's more safe, and so it can be more fun to drive a car when you're not afraid that you're going to be thrown from the car if you get in an accident, right? So
100%.
that to me is kind of the way that I would challenge people to just kind of reframe the way that they look at these tools that we're kind of giving them. And you are correct that, like, I mean, like, the lines and veils in my draft is maybe like 2/3 of one page, and this is like in Word, I think it was like a 50-page chapter. I have no
Mhm.
idea how long it's actually going to be in the book with all the formatting and all, but it's a big chapter and we put like one thing in there, but it's part of this whole kind of panoply of ways that you work together and different approaches that you can take to putting a story together, putting a chronicle together. But it's important, right? You don't just get in the car, and at least I don't get in the car and turn on the radio and zoom off down the road without putting your safety belt on. So, put your safety belt on and then turn the music up as loud as you want and go where you want to go.
Exactly. And yeah, that was
That's all
kind
we intend.
and that's kind of the that's the thing that I find interesting, compelling, and cool about it is the inclusion of that at a fundamental ground level as just part of the normal preparation for a game.
Hmm.
And yeah, as you mentioned, with the actual plays, we always do
Hmm.
safety tools, but discussions, and I would say probably 9 out of 10 actual plays, those are done live
Hmm.
as part of a session zero broadcast. The only time we don't do those live is generally if we're doing a one shot, because we have that conversation beforehand, because broadcast
Yep.
time is at a premium. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Oh yeah,
And so,
absolutely.
Yeah,
um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, it's definitely highly.
practice what you preach. So
Well, right, exactly. And also, we
Yep.
can show you that. I mean, it's, I think the longest safety discussion I've ever had at a game was probably about 10 minutes long. And I think
Yeah.
that was because we were really diving into like specifics about like, I believe if I recall properly, not to get too far into the weeds, but we had one player who was opposed to like medical trauma, but only inflicted on them directly. So they were like, I don't care if somebody else gets,
That's totally me. That's exactly me. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I'm fine with it happening to other people, or if I'm not involved in the scene or whatever, if I can like just peace out, I'm good, you know. Uh but yeah, no, absolutely. And the thing is, too, I think that if you look at these safety tools as just part of how you're setting things up, I've seen a lot of positive discussion about what people do want to see included and the things that we do want to approach and bring into the story. As part of a like lines and veils discussion, as part of a safety tools discussion, because what you get is you say, well, I don't want to, like, I'm not cool with centipedes, but you can have as many lobsters as you want or whatever,
Right.
right? Like, and so then like Hiromi's over there like lobsters, okay, giant evil lobsters, and that becomes part of the kind of giving your story guide ideas as well, right? Um, I don't know how other people do it, but certainly like I am the kind of story guide and storyteller, depending on, whatever, that if you say some like offhand thing about your character, like it's going in the file, right?
Right.
And that will come back out later, or about things that you enjoy, like that's going in the file and it will probably come back out later, right? So that is part of that as well. When you're saying no to certain things, you're also telling everybody else the things that you will say yes to and that you want to say yes to. So I think that's a really important part of that balance.
Absolutely, and it helps steer the theme, the genre, the
Mhm.
feel, kind of all
Right.
informs that. When I do actual plays, I use just yes go and no go. So like,
There
tell
you
tell me
go.
the thing
Yep.
you want to see and the thing you don't want to see.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and the other thing that has come in very handy is just the whole idea of, if something comes up that's a problem, we exit, and I only ask you for clarification if I literally don't know why you used the X card. And
Right.
that's rarely
Right.
going to come up where somebody's going to be like,
Right.
and you're going to be like, what? Why?
Why? I don't understand. Yeah, that's very rarely
Right.
usually when the X card comes out, people know why, right?
Right.
And
Usually
it's like, oh
clear.
yeah, okay, we got it. We don't need to go back into that for
Right.
sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
you never know. You might get surprised. We
Yep.
we do have
Absolutely.
yeah, and being prepared for that is also just
Yep.
being aware and prepared. Those are the biggest pieces of advice, I suppose. The big takeaways.
Yep.
We do have a question coming in from the chat. What's everyone's favorite gift, college, or storytelling advice bit that they've written for Aegis? So, Steve, let's let you
Please.
feel this
Yeah.
first. What's your favorite gift that you've written, or a
All right,
favorite couple of gifts?
yeah. Actually, favorite's probably not even all that contendable. Yeah, that's a word. Um, it could be a word. I'm a big fan of martial arts. And so when we were doing ancient Greece, I started looking into pancration and contacted a friend of mine who practiced it, and went out to talk to him about it, and had a nice discussion, and he showed me a couple of things. So I wrote a chain of gifts that ended up. Um, this isn't no, it's not a spoiler. There's not really general gifts in, I believe, most other properties. There are in this one, which is a chain that starts with one that multiple types of people can buy, of inspired type people can buy. And then it branches into a unique gift for the Olympians and a unique gift for the champions.
Oh, that's dope.
Um,
That's awesome. First I'm hearing of
uh,
it. Badass.
yeah,
That's amazing.
thanks.
I dig it.
Yeah, the champion one really focuses into the aspects of the creation that are about outthinking your opponent, using leverage, weight, that sort of stuff. The Olympian one is about breaking someone's arm because you are just that strong, even if it doesn't really make
Nice.
sense that you can do it from this position. So that's definitely like that one's probably my favorite. I mean, that's the one I spent the most time writing because I went somewhere to go talk to someone about it.
Right. Did some footwork for it. Right.
Yeah. Besides that, there's besides that, there's one that started off like that, and then I kind of moved away, and it's a play on shadow boxing that the oracles can get, where you know punch people in the shadow, and grab their shadow,
Love
to do
that.
things to them. It
That's
started off as a chain from the pancreation gift, and then you know as
Hmm.
things kind of developed, it became its own
and that
thing because we try not to chain too much. We try not to have too complex chains in the in Trinity as a whole. But yeah,
well, and
those are
that's funny
probably
that you mentioned that too, because I don't know if that actually occurs in Clash of the Titans, but that sounds like something that would be in Clash of the Titans. You know?
Yes. 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 Yes.
I
And
might have
that's
stolen it from
yes.
Clash of the Titans. That's like totally possible.
We are
Um,
all like influenced by so many things that we can't really, they just kind of come bubbling up every
Right.
so often, for
but
sure. For
I mean, we
sure.
all went and watched a couple of. I'm sure when we got on the project, a couple of Greek history movies. You know, Clash of the Titans and Jason the
Hmm.
Argonaut stuff and Hercules. I went and watched
Oh,
the Rock
totally.
Hercules movie. It's awful, just
Oh
awful.
God, I've heard it's
Nice.
terrible. I did not watch it.
It's terrible. It did give me a few cool ideas, which did make it into the champions
That's
you know
awesome.
thing. So for research purposes, it was fine. But yeah, terrible movie.
Yeah, I have a funny story about the consuming media, I guess. But I'll wait till I get to my part. Let's have Spider go first. Is there a particular piece of storytelling
Um,
advice, or just like even just a particular fiddly bit that came in there that you're especially proud of, or
Yeah, so actually I think one of the things that I'm really excited about that's kind of an overarching thing is that we talked a lot about different ways of story guiding. Some people are very much like let me back up half a step. I can't use pre-written adventures. They confuse me. That is just not the way that I have ever been able to story guide, right? Because I am much more of a living world person. Like I said, I come from an environment where there can be like up to 200 players in a game, right?
right?
Imagine trying to use something that is pre-scripted in that you just can't. So we were able to talk about a couple of different ways that you can build a story, right? My usual way of doing it is that I know who the NPCs are, I know what their motivations are, I know what the moving pieces are, and then when one of the many players does something that I didn't expect, I'm not chained into a reaction. I can just decide what happens next. We were able to talk about that, but as far as like a singular bit of advice, I think probably I would say it's not about you. And what I mean by it's not about you is actually not about the players, but about the characters and the story guide characters, right? Um it is one of the best pieces of advice that I was ever given in terms of acting and in terms of crafting a story, is that like most people that you meet, their driving motivation is not self-centered particularly. It may be connected to their self-interests, right? But like if you think about since I've been obsessively watching it over and over since it dropped because I want season 3. If you think about Good Omens, Aziraphale's primary concern is not himself, right? He cares about Crowley. He cares about his bookshop. Crowley cares about Aziraphale. Like those are the things that they focus on, right? Hamlet's mom doesn't care about her, like Gertrude doesn't care about herself, right?
Right.
She cares about her son. Tony Stark in Endgame, what's his big concern? Not himself. It's not screwing up the timeline so his daughter stops existing, right? That's what your NPCs, your story guide characters, your characters are really about, right? That's what people are really about, like I care about my business, I care about my daughter and my partners and my dogs. Those are the things that I care about, and those are the things that drive me and would cause me to react in a certain way. So one thing that I suggest, especially if you're going with kind of like a living world, like that, I know who the NPCs are and I know, or the story guide characters are, and I know how they will react kind of story guiding. is to kind of keep a stable of relatively generic motivations. So like when you are pulling out guard number 7 and giving him a name from your list of generic story guide characters' names that you kind of have, you also have, protect my home, keep this job, make enough money to take care of my partner, whatever it may happen to be. You have this like list of maybe 5 to 10 relatively generic primary motivations for a story guide character, so that it looks a lot less like you just pulled this, like, you just pulled Jarnathan out of your back pocket, just Jarnathan in the D&D movie. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but like Jarnathan is a name, totally sounds like a name that the DM was like, his name is Jarnathan, like, so even if you're making a Jarnathan, right, it doesn't have to feel that way to your players. And part of that also is not changing the facts on the ground when your characters do something that you didn't expect or is too clever.
Right.
One of my biggest pet peeves as a player and as a story guide are like story guides and DMs who change the facts because the players were too clever.
Right.
Like, I will quit a game over that. And so like those two things are kind of hand in hand in that section, that like, look, if there's nothing wrong with saying you guys did something that will end this plot in 5 minutes if I don't stop the session now and figure out a way to not change things, but also to not have this like ruin stuff, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but like, to never change those facts. If you've decided that there are facts on the ground and your players are too smart or too clever or get such a good dice roll, like don't change the facts. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hold on, I don't know the answer to that, or you just broke the story, hold on a second. So those are the two, and they're kind of like knit together, right? Like, to be able to have these flexible NPCs and these flexible NPC builds, and also to just let the facts be what they are. And if your players are too smart,
Congrats, smart players.
congrats. Like,
Right.
to me, there is nothing better as a story guide than the moment that the penny drops and the light goes on behind the player's eyes, or like you see someone figuring something out like way sooner than you thought.
Yeah, it means you've done a good job.
Yes,
given all
that's
the
the
hints
chef
they need.
kiss stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Foreshadowed correctly.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's not a failure. Yeah, absolutely.
I will say that it is a fun thing when you're writing story guiding sections in books, that you kind of get to take every bad experience that you have had as a player and say, and don't do that.
Right. This is the thing
Do
to
this
avoid.
instead.
Yes.
Don't
do that.
do this thing that this storyteller did to me 10 years ago that I'm still mad about, right? On some level, clearly, because I'm writing it down in the book. But you get to turn what has happened to you as a player that you didn't enjoy into advice, so that other people can have a good time.
Right.
Well, that is awesome for one thing, and also on a personal note, let me thank you for including such material. Because until I had to run for timed events, right? Until I had to run like at a con table or for a stream, I was always. I still prefer to fly by the seat of my pants when I'm running a game rather than running like a pre-written module.
100%. Can't do otherwise.
It's very nice to have stuff that's geared toward that. So thank you.
I realized that, like, if I'm gonna be this way, right, as a story guide, if I'm gonna just be this apparently not that common, form of story guide, I should at least put in some advice for not only like how to do that successfully, but how to deal with story guides who are like that, and how to not be a jerk when you're like doing this thing, right? Because it can be hard sometimes as a player to deal with a story guide that doesn't do structure. If you're someone that does structure, that can be a source of conflict. And so to be able to put that in there, again, like everything that I wrote in this is trying to identify God, I hate using this term, but it is a correct term, to identify pain points and points of conflict. It's a very corporate term. I used to be in banking, right? You want to eliminate those pain points for the customer. No, but you want to just eliminate those little bits of friction, right? So that they don't distract from the story that you want to tell. Like that's the whole point of everything that Lauren and I tried to do with this section, was to try to make story guiding and all of those kinds of things as invisible as possible, so that they are like the backs of the set, right, holding up your scenery and all of that kind of stuff. So it should be there, but you don't want to see it. And so we wanted to try to like eliminate a lot of that stuff, so that the game just really flows as easily as possible.
It's awesome. And
How about you, Travis? What was your favorite thing you wrote?
so
Yes, tell us about your favorite thing.
I hate to say this, and I fought against it almost the entire time I was working on the section, but my favorite college is the Scandian Storm. And like at first, like for real, I didn't want it to be. When I first conceived of it, I was like, I'm going to do this as one of the, because I think I had two major colleges and two minor colleges, and Lauren was just like, I don't know, pitch me something, and I was like, well, okay. And I had just gotten completely unrelated, didn't know I was going to be working on Aegis. I had just happened to pick up on Audible like 3 history books about like pre-Norse Scandinavia, right? So it's like, that's funny. That's weird, kismet. And so I started kind of playing around with it and stuff. And then, I was like, well, maybe I won't do them at all. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll do them as a minor in college. And I started reading into like some of the, just basic setting chapter. I think the stuff that's in like chapter 1, about kind of what's going on in that particular part of the world. And I immediately started to glom on to like, oh, okay, how I can turn this thing into, and I really kind of took it upon myself to build sort of a proto-Norse mythos into them. So like there's certain like members of the family that are mentioned that are, figures from Norse mythology, things like that. Kind of like these are the heroes that ultimately through the course of history will be ultimately, start to be viewed as these beings.
Right.
So it was a lot of fun to play with. I didn't want it to be my favorite, but it just.
Why didn't you want it to be your favorite?
Because it just seemed like, of course, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Scandinavian kid's gonna,
Well, I gotta say,
when I write something that feels ancillary and then it becomes like my favorite, and then I fear I'm putting too much focus on it when it should be like, I get that. I totally get where you're coming from.
At the same time, if like as a kind of a Norse and Celtic derived Jew that is married to some also Norse Jews, right? It's always lovely to see more stuff, right, that touches on our background that isn't shitty. It doesn't suck. and isn't like couched. It isn't hiding 1488 right under the surface.
Right. Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so every time I see something like that is purposefully built, it genuinely makes me really, really happy. And it's one of the reasons why I was really happy with the people that like I worked with for the ACR on Scion for the same thing, right? So seeing that in Aegis genuinely is a thing that makes a lot of folks like me like really happy. So I'm glad that you put it in, and I'm glad that it even if you were kind of like resentfully like, I don't want to like you, it's good to see that present, right? And I think it falls under the thing that I say to hit on me all the time about like, well, we're making the right people angry,
Right. Absolutely.
Which is a good way to be doing it. So thank you for that. And
thank you for saying as much. That means a lot to hear. Yeah. And I got to tell you, I don't think I have the brain processing power to keep up with the nonsense involved in conspiracy theory or white supremacy. And that was one of my worries too. Like, is I'm going to accidentally step in something because they come up with the weirdest, bizarro shit. You know what I mean?
Don't worry. If and just in general, if we're on a book together, you can always be like, hey,
Right.
is there something, because unfortunately for the what is it, Ralph Wiggum's I'm in danger, I
Right.
unfortunately have to know all of the terrible things that are hidden under the surface, right? Because I need to know who I'm dealing with and online, and when you're visibly
Right.
queer, for a living, essentially, and Jewish, and all that stuff, you kind of have to know. So not only like A, will Lauren probably ask me,
Right.
but B, you can always ask
Well,
me.
and I
Just for
appreciate
the record, you can always ask me.
I
Keep
appreciate
that
the
in mind.
invitation. May take you up on it sometime, but yeah, it was.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and honestly, I mean, like, and that was part of to sort of tie things together on an up note. That was
Right.
one of the joys of working on this project, was knowing that um, everybody on the team was, and this is always in my experience anyway, true with Onyx
Yeah.
Path. Everybody on the team is interested in putting their best foot forward and doing the best
Yeah,
work
for sure.
and putting out the best thing. And sometimes
Yep.
mistakes get made, things get overlooked,
Yep.
shit happens. But when that comes up,
Yep.
it's immediately addressed. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
knowing, having that slight safety net of knowing that if I step in it here, somebody is going to
Yep.
call me on it and going to say, "Hey, can we
Yep.
get this fixed?"
Yeah, sometimes things will make it as far as like being released to backers and stuff,
Right.
but almost inevitably, like when it's, and I say this as well, not just with like the other writers, but like with the backers and folks who are part of the fan community, that like 98%, 99% of the folks are understand that we are doing the best we have with we can with the knowledge that we have,
Right.
and that we're always open to changing things and correcting things that we saw. Like there have been a couple of things that have come up in recently in Scion books, where somebody did something that they didn't know, like
Right.
had, like, a lot of people don't know that Cabal has anti-Semitic roots. A lot of people don't know that, like, all these other things, like, yeah, it's unfortunately it's anti-Semitism all the way down.
Right.
But sometimes those things will roll out in a project, and somebody will be like, hey, hey, Spider, did you see this? Hey, Kirami, did you see this? Like, do you know what this actually means? Do you know where this word comes from? And we'll be like, oh no, God. And then, like, somebody quickly runs off and like fixes it, and and it inevitably makes things better. So a lot of times it doesn't make it to the backers stage, but even when it does, we've been very lucky that people have been like, hey, I'm sure you didn't know this, and we're like, oh God, I didn't know. And then it goes away, right? And it gets changed, and it inevitably becomes something better. So in that sense, uh the more folks who are buy in, right, at the backer stage, and get to see these things, are just more eyeballs that might catch something that, for all of the good folks that Onyx Path hires, and the very diverse group of people that Onyx Path tries to bring in, and with editing and all of those kinds of things, um the more people who are in, this stage, the more people who get to see it are people who might see something that we didn't see, that we can't see, because we are human beings who only have so much, room in our brains for all of this knowledge, and can only do so much in every day. So, I guess to end on a pitch note, uh please buy in, absolutely come in at this stage, because this is the beginning of Aegis, right? This is
Right.
not the end of Aegis, this is the beginning of Aegis. So this is kind of where you can help us set the stage, and the things that you see, and the comments that you have, and the all of those things during this initial backer kit phase, crowdfunding phase, however you want to phrase it, will actually make a big difference. And this is the place where folks get to help us set that stage for the rest of what this game is going to be. So please.
And that is one thing that is, I don't know if it's unique, but it's certainly unusual, that Onyx
Right.
Path does, where the audience really does have a
Yep.
palpable, tactile
Yep.
path to feedback. And
Yep.
if we step in it, we take ownership and we fix it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
you know, to the fans who participate in that process, I want to say thank you. You know,
Absolutely.
keep doing that. And you know, please know that in our hearts, the creators, I know, and I feel fairly confident speaking for the majority of us, if not all, in our hearts, we want to make the best, most enjoyable thing, and we don't ever intend to harm somebody with something, right? And
Yep.
so, having that pointed out, and having somebody there that can say, "Hey, you know, this was a misstep," it's absolutely
Right.
invaluable.
Right.
You know,
Which
'cause-
is like, again, I have to stress, like, we hire people for these purposes, but everybody that we hire is only just one person,
right,
right? So we can hire someone and you know that is very knowledgeable about X, Y, or Z, um, you know, about disability, about queerness, about all of the various things that you know come into people being people, right? All of our various intersections of diversity. But it doesn't matter to be to a certain extent. Like there's only so far that can go, I guess
right,
is the best way to say it. And so being a part of that process is something that I really like, that the backers are part of that process and the fans are part of that process, is something I truly uh I truly treasure, you know, for the most part. Like it's really I don't know if it's unique, but it certainly is not common, like you
right.
said.
Very,
That
very
we
unusual, if
have
nothing else. Yeah,
basically the whole manuscript by the time we're done with a crowdfunding campaign. You guys have seen everything we've written to that point. It may not be, it's not going to be final because the
right.
part of the process is getting that feedback. But yeah, for sure,
No,
it's
it's very cool.
it's wonderful.
It's very
Yeah.
cool. So, yeah, again, I would like to reiterate the link has just been shared in the chat. Please, if you've not yet done so, head over there and back Aegis. Shockingly, we are already past an hour. So, before we let you all back off into the wild, any final thoughts that you'd like to share? Steve, you had any final thing you'd like to share with the folks at home?
Well, first of all, yeah, please definitely back it. We'd love to. I think all of us have a lot more ideas for, you know, how to expand the
Hmm.
world that's created in the book, and we get to do that
Yep.
if more of you back it. But I did realize I misspoke and misremembered my own writing, which is really common. So
Happens constantly to all of us.
All the
yeah,
time. Yeah.
Erebus boxing does not let you punch people in the shadow. It lets you rip their shadow off of them so that so that their shadow can punch them for you.
Oh, okay.
And
Nice.
I just thought that was, you know, so if you want to
That's
have, you know, people's
better.
shadow punch them, I thought that was one of the more, you know, weird things that I wrote. And there's more stuff like that in the gift section, so you should back the book.
Awesome.
Yes.
Rock and roll. Spider, any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Oh gosh. I I want to reiterate again how delighted I am at having gotten to be a part of this. How amazing! Like the whole team has just been great. And again, I just want to give a huge shout out to Lauren, who I really love working with as a developer, and she really had a very clear idea of what she wanted, and she is just really good at managing the hurting all of the cats. So I cannot say enough nice things about Lauren and her vision for Aegis and her bringing that to life. Like everything that you like about Aegis is in some way because of Lauren Roy. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Great direction.
I would
Great
love
direction.
to
oh
echo
yeah.
that sentiment as
Yeah.
well. Lauren is a
Yeah.
amazing developer, truly
Yep.
a joy and treasure to work for.
Yep.
And yeah, this book has just been, the process of working on this book has been
Yeah.
just really smooth and amazing and fun and wonderful. The team has been great. Everything about it's been awesome. And
Yeah.
that's not
All
always
credit
the
to
case.
Lauren. All I mean, you know, we all worked really hard. We all worked really hard, but like all credit to Lauren for being, you know, this really is her baby. And she is the midwife who brought it into being, and she really deserves, you know, and she's over there in the
She's
chat
protesting the
saying that
chat,
it's
and
all,
I'm
she's
ignoring her.
protesting in the chat and we're ignoring her because no, like it is all of our hard work. Please, I do not wish to take anything away from the writers, but Lauren is the midwife of Aegis, and she really deserves all of the credit
I phoned everything in
for
and
all
let
of her
Lauren
work.
fix it in development. So
You liar. Absolute liar. No, but I have to reiterate that this is Lauren's baby, and she was an amazing midwife, and everything that happened does not happen without Lauren at the helm, herding the cats, guiding the ship, doing all of it.
yes, thank you so much for your leadership, Lauren. It really, I think it shows in an amazing project, and I
Yes,
think
agreed.
that's another a wonderful reason why you should go back it. And I guess for me, the final thought would be we are going to be having an actual play Sunday nights starting this Sunday with a session zero. I think it's at 8 p.m. Eastern, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be fun. I'm going to try to read all the parts of the book I haven't read yet between now and then, while I'm also
Mm-hmm.
doing post editing development for Hated and Feared. So that'll be fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in for a fun week. Good thing my new
Not busy
glasses
at
are
all.
coming in. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So, but definitely, if you've not yet done so, obviously run over back the backer kit, but also follow the channel so you know when we go live. Sub to us so that you can watch our VODs during the week of exclusivity. And join us on Sunday as we have our actual play. And I'm going to see if I can twist some arms and get some more writers and have maybe one more of these discussions before the backer gets out. We'll see. No promises. Until then, I guess let's have everybody do our final outros. Steve, if you could tell us who you are, what you do, your pronouns, and anything non-Aegis related you would like to promote.
I'm Steve Tasker. He, him. Most of the other stuff I can't actually talk about right now. So, and I don't have a Twitter right now because it got destroyed in the Great Muskening.
That's fair. Well,
Yeah.
let me on your behalf just tell everyone that if they've not yet picked up Adventure, that they are robbing themselves of a rootin' tootin' grand old time, and they should go and pick up Adventure because
great.
Steve did
Assassin
some
too.
amazing work on it.
So did some work on
Yeah.
Assassins.
Assassins was very
cool.
fun to write. Yeah, for
Definitely.
sure.
Yeah, Assassin was so much fun. It's such a crazy book.
Definitely pick those two up, both available at Drive Through RPG and POD and PDF. Spider, who you are, what you do, pronouns, and anything non-Aegis you would like to promote.
So I am Spider B Perry. My pronouns are he, they. You can find me everywhere except for Instagram. Somebody got VA Spider before me, and I'm very cranky about it. But I am most active on Tumblr right now, and Blue Sky, where you can find me as vaspider.gay, because of course you can. And as far as non-Aegis stuff to promote, obviously just Scion 2E, check out absolutely everything. God is almost ready to come out, and I'm very excited about that. But my day job is queer clothing. My company's name is Nerdy Kepi, and you can actually find us online at ithaspockets.gay. And just launched a full circle, super spinny skirt with all kinds of really awesome, like, new colors and stuff. And my brother just finished putting up swimsuits. So if you want some cool gay clothes, ithaspockets.gay.
Excellent. And I've thrown that link up in the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely head over there and pick up some quality apparels.
Oh, actually, you know what? The other thing that's over there are the Exalted Essence bags, because we are working with Onyx Path. So if you want to get some really cool art from Exalted Essence on messenger bags that are big enough to hold multiple Exalted books, which is a joke if you play Exalted Junior. But anyway, look, huge books, you can hold them. Yeah. So if you want to get those are also over at the site. So I'm very excited that we got to work with Onyx Path on that.
That is awesome, and I recall much excitement at the time that deal was sorted out and announced.
Yes.
So all parties
Yeah.
concerned very pleased.
I'm very, very happy, and hopefully we'll get to do more stuff with them in the future. But we do have the Exalted Essence stuff there.
All right. So if you're within the sound of my voice, go throw money at the Exalted stuff over at Nerdy Cappy so that they can then do more.
Exactly.
For
Exalted.
future.
Maybe some Aegis stuff. Who knows?
You never know.
Maybe.
You never know.
You never know.
It's possible.
Call me Rich. Anyway.
And I guess that leaves me and Travis Heathay when I'm
Yes.
not running games. I'm writing them. Like I said, I got the actual play coming up on Sunday. I'm doing an actual play on Thursday. I don't even remember what it. Oh, I'm running Scion for the first time on Thursday.
Nice.
For a
Mazel tov.
little one shot that I wrote. Thank you. Yeah, so make sure follow, sub, all that good stuff. Go by the world below if you haven't yet.
Oh yeah,
I
for
had
sure.
the amazing privilege of working on powers for that, which was a lot of fun. I think if you're into dark fantasy at all, if you're into horror at all, the world below provides for, as the Templars would say, the world below provides. So yeah, definitely head over, check that out. We will be back here on the channel. I think the next game is my Scion one shot on Thursday. So till then, as the late great Jerry Springer always said, take care of yourselves and each other. Don't forget to get your shots and wear a mask and all that fun stuff. And we'll see you again
Mhm.
real soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.